Okay.
So tell us about, have you started?
Yeah, go on.
So tell us, I can say anything you see because you'll just cut it all out. Tell us about co-production from your point of view.
So I when I started working with A Better Start in 2016, I didn't really know what co-production was or meant, and I'd certainly never experienced working in a co-productive environment. And so it was a little bit challenging as a concept. And then you read up about it and you find all sorts of definitions that tell you a very idealised view of what co-production should be, this kind of equalisation of power, the ability to work with people with lived experience in a way that distributes that power and genuinely is about working together and accepting the outcome of that work without resorting to hierarchy or any of those sorts of usual techniques in the public sector or elsewhere in the economy. So goodness, this is a way of working which is going to be very, very different. And it was quite scary, I think. But at the heart of co-production are normal human values of working cooperatively, respecting other people's opinion, listening to what people have to say, making sure that the decisions that are made are ones that are made in a way which generates consensus and energy behind those decisions and actions, as opposed to some people feeling they've lost out or they've somehow not been represented. So there's something very human in co-production that, if you abandon the dictionary definition of it, seems to me to be about people working together well. And so my encouragement to people embarking on a co-production journey would be to think about their values as a person, as a human being that has to share the planet with other people, and apply that in. And I don't think then you can go far wrong. I think again, this ideal notion of what co-production is, the world is not like that. I've made mistakes, other people have made mistakes, and we've gone on a journey and a process together, making mistakes, creating successes, and it's the overall experience that matters, and that feeling of being included and involved from everybody, that's the important thing, and is a massive lesson to people trying to do things in communities, the country over, the world over.
Parents have talked about the importance of the culture of an organisation. How did you create the culture that you've just described, actually? How did that get created across an organisation that's got a lot of responsibility and money to spend and outcomes to create and all those sorts of things?
I think, having said it's about normal human dynamics and it's about people working together, what you have to recognise, I think, at the start is that everybody's coming into this partnership working and into the frame of co-production from different places. So you will have people that are very, very experienced in working in public sector or voluntary sector professional roles, who will have the sort of handbook in their brain of how to do meetings, how to get different techniques of managing things done, etc., etc. And then you've got a group of people who've come into the frame with their own skills and experiences, which are equally valid, but might not be well tuned in to that sort of working environment where there's paperwork and there's minutes and there's an orderly process of bureaucracy around something. So what you have to do, or try to do, and this is where I'll have made mistakes and we'll have not always got things right, is level the playing field so that everybody is coming in to that conversation with an equal opportunity to contribute, feeling that their voice is valued. We've had parents who have been parent champions from all different walks of life. Some of them working in factories or in other environments that are beyond the kind of experience of people like me who's always been in offices or in organisations. Some people have brought a set of skills which are much more about home and community, but nonetheless valid. And what you've got to be able to do, I think, is try and raise the platform of engagement to ensure that everybody has got a voice in what's going on, not just the people who are experienced in the kind of office and bureaucratic language that, you know, I'm certainly accustomed to. And in a way, that creates some of the journey that everybody needs to go on, because very often in public services, as an afterthought, people will say, oh, we should find out what the people think. And then because the people are all different and they don't necessarily get involved in things like this, it looks as if it's either confirming what they thought already or something that they're not interested in. So it becomes a decoration to a process as opposed to being built within it. But if you take the time to learn from people, and I've certainly learned from the parents and partners that have been involved in A Better Start, your work is richer and better and more impactful as a result.
Thank you.
So it sounds like it hasn't been a completely straightforward journey, your co-production journey. What would you do differently, if anything, if you were starting off again?
Yeah, in a way, I'm not regretful at all of anything that we have done. The difficulties are there not to be ignored or to be regretted. They're there because they were moments of learning. And, you know, at times parents were metaphorically banging their fists on the table and saying, we want to be heard more loudly, you know, and it was good that they did that. It was uncomfortable sometimes, but I'm glad it happened, you know. Equally, I'm glad that we all had to learn together. You know, I didn't come into it, barely anybody came into it with massive co-production and partnership working expertise. And so you have to find something that works for you, not that sits in a textbook somewhere. And that then creates a shared narrative and a shared journey together. So we've learned together and we've figured it out together, and we have made mistakes, but also shared wonderful successes on the journey. So I wouldn't change it for the world.
In terms of learning, are there any kind of top tips for other organisations that might be starting off on that journey? Are there certain things that you think, oh look, I mean, one thing I'm picking up on, remember this is going to get cut, time and relationships seem to be quite important, but are there also, so those things, but and anything else?
So we're thinking about, if you're thinking about going on a co-production journey, don't do it because you think you should, and don't do it expecting instant rewards. So I think there's both about partnership working and about co-production, slightly overlapping but different kind of concepts. The life of a child is complicated. It's got many influences on it. The local community, his or her parents, the services that are provided by statutory and voluntary authorities, whether the air is clean, whether the streets are safe, and all of those sorts of things. So it is necessary to work in partnership with people who are living in that space, but also organisations that are operating in that space, to create the best outcomes possible for the children that we are our families and children that we are here to serve. That's true of a lot of spaces in the public and voluntary sector, isn't it? A lot of things are messy and complicated and difficult. So the best thing to do in those circumstances is work in partnership. But it's time consuming, and it's sometimes easier to make the decision yourself and have an organisation of your own that you can tell what to do, but that's not going to provide the right result, is it? Because one agency or one organisation has a little impact on the life of a child but doesn't really take the whole view. So we knew over this programme that we had to build in messiness and complication to what we were doing. So my advice to people doing this would not be to say, in a year you're going to have all these fantastic results and, you're going to not turn back. Is to say, actually, if you want to do the best, whether it's children or another population within society or another issue within society, if you want to do your best on that issue, you have to work with other people. You have to work with people that are experiencing that environment. And that is going to make your life more complicated and messy. And in the end, it will be absolutely worth it. But if you're thinking, I'm going to get an instant benefit in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or even 12 months, I think you're fooling yourself and setting the wrong expectations. I think also, and this is obvious to say, don't do it because somebody's written somewhere or said somewhere that this is a good thing. You really have to internalise what it means and figure out how to make it work and want to do it. So, that's part of the journey as well, which is everybody will come into the frame for different reasons, but actually their ability to stay the course over a period of time depends on how much they're personally invested in it. So these are things that are not to be taken lightly. They're not to be scared of, but you need to be in it for the right reasons. And if you're ever at a point where you're saying, this bloody co-production stuff's a pain in the neck and I don't really want to do it anymore, then that's not the point. The point is it's a pain in the neck for a reason, and the reason is that we need to listen to all sorts of different voices to make this thing work. And so that would be my advice. Also, don't be scared by the dictionary definition. It can feel, and I certainly felt, almost intimidated by what had been written about co-production and the idea of this co-production perfection. As I said earlier, it's about human beings working well together, and if you've got the right values, you can do it.
So I think one more question.
Yep.
So now that A Better Start Southend is coming to an end, in terms of its legacy, like the legacy of your co-production approach, how will it continue?
I think co-production will, as a legacy of A Better Start Southend, will continue in a few different ways. So first of all, it will carry with over 100 parent champions, but also all of the other people that have been involved in the co-production process, whether they're in SAVs or A Better Start staff or with delivery partners or with other organisations that have either come across them or indeed individuals that have benefited from the services that we've been provided. So it lives on in the people that have experienced it. What I think I would be more hopeful and ambitious about is that through its influence, not just within the people, but also in the results that have been generated by the work that we've done, it will live on not just in Southend, but in the wider South Essex area as an example of how to do this, and a place where there are continuing resources and expertise to draw on. The ambition would be that I think certainly all public services have stronger elements of genuine engagement and where possible, co-production embedded within them. And I think the examples of that, there are some in public services in our region, but not many. And often the involvement of patients or parents or people who use services or people with lived experience is an afterthought as opposed to being baked in from the start. What A Better Start over the past 10 years has provided is a template for doing it at the ground up. Again, it's not been perfect, and but we certainly tried, and we certainly got some significant benefits out of it. I would hope and want public services in our neck of the wood to be taking note of the journey that A Better Start have been on, and seeing if they can replicate some of that experience in their own space, whether it's about hard infrastructure like roads and street furniture and all of that sort of thing, or whether it's about services to people, whether they be in sort of social care or education or in the early years frame. We've got such a lot to learn as a city and as a region from this experience, and certainly I, amongst many of the people involved, will be really eager to share those lessons as the programme comes to an end.
Fantastic. Anything else?
Fantastic.
Anything else, anyone?
That was great.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you very much.